Imagine this. They're running a small kingdom, and this massive global superpower rolls up. They've steamrolled everyone else.
Right.
And they don't just bring soldiers, they bring this message of, well, pure contempt. For your people, for your God, for everything.
That's pretty much the setup. Intense.
It really is. And that's a scene we're diving into today, straight from the source text, Isaiah chapter 37 in the Bible.
A truly dramatic account.
Yeah. So our mission here is to unpack it, see what details jump out, and understand how this nation, Judah, responded when facing, total destruction. And what happened next is, well, pretty surprising.
It starts with just sheer desperation, doesn't it? You've got the Assyrian Empire, the military machine of the day.
Under Sennacherib, infamous.
Absolutely. And they're right there, ready to just crush tiny Judah and Jerusalem. They were known for being ruthless, efficient, just overwhelming.
So the crisis kicks off properly when King Hezekiah gets that first direct message.
From the Assyrian field commander, right?
Yeah, and the text makes it super clear this isn't just a standard military threat. How so?
Well, it's psychological warfare and spiritual. The message is just dripping with arrogance. They basically say, who are you relying on? Egypt. Forget it. You're God.
Ah, here comes.
We've crushed every other nation and their gods. What makes you think yours is any different? That he can save you? The text explicitly says they were ridiculing the living God.
Wow, so it elevates it beyond just conquest. It's a challenge to God himself.
Exactly. A cosmic showdown framed by the Assyrians.
So Hezekiah gets this terrifying, blasphemous message. What's his first reaction? What does the text show?
It's immediate and visceral. No strategy meetings, no rallying the troops first. He tears his clothes,
Okay.
puts on sackcloth threes, those traditional signs of grief, mourning, deep distress, and then straight into the temple of the Lord.
That's striking, isn't it? Faced with that kind of threat, his first move is spiritual. Lament, turning to God.
It really subverts expectations. He gets the nature of the threat, fundamentally. He knows where any potential help has to come from.
Right, so after that personal act, he takes another step. Still seems focused on seeking divine help, though.
Yes. He sends a delegation, his top officials, Eliakim, Shebna, the leading priests, also in sackcloth. Humility across the board.
And where do they go?
To the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos.
Carrying a message from Hezekiah. What did he want Isaiah to know?
The message itself is incredibly raw. It conveys total human helplessness. They use this analogy. It's really vivid.
What is it?
They say this is a day of distress, rebuke, and disgrace. Like when children come to the point of birth and there is no strength to deliver them.
Oof. That paints a picture. Utter powerlessness at the critical moment.
Exactly. They're trapped, about to be wiped out, and they can't save themselves. And they ask Isaiah, specifically, to pray for the remnant that still survives. They already feel decimated.
So acknowledging total human inability, crying out for God's help via the prophet. How does Isaiah respond? Is it immediate?
Instantly. He sends the officials back to Hezekiah with a direct word from the Lord.
And that word is...
First things first, do not be afraid.
Do not be afraid. Seriously. With the Assyrian army practically at the gates.
That's the message. Reassurance first. And it's followed by a specific prophecy about Sennacherib himself.
Okay, what's the prophecy?
God says he'll put a spirit in Sennacherib. He'll hear a particular report or a rumor that makes him pack up and go back to his own country.
Okay, so relief is coming.
But there's more. A really surprising detail in the text. God declares that Sennacherib will be cut down with the sword there, back in his own land.
Wow. So not only will the siege be lifted, but the seemingly invincible emperor will meet his end far away, just as God says.
It completely flips the script, doesn't it? Focus shifts from Judah's weakness to God's direct intervention against the aggressor.
But things don't just stop there, do they? The Assyrians don't vanish immediately.
Now, there's another turn. The source says the field commander who delivered the first message leaves Lachish. He finds Sennacherib fighting against another town, Libnah. And then Sennacherib gets some news. A report comes in that Tirhakah, the Cushite king, basically the Egyptian pharaoh, is marching out to fight him.
Ah, an external threat. That must divert his attention.
It does. But it doesn't make him forget Jerusalem. He's tied up with his new enemy, but he decides to double down on intimidating Hezekiah.
How does he do that this time? More verbal threats.
No, this time it's different. More formal, maybe more intimidating. He sends messengers directly to Hezekiah carrying a written letter from Sennacherib himself.
A personal letter from the emperor, that feels like an escalation, more direct pressure.
Definitely. And the contents of this letter,
Yeah.
well, they're designed to completely crush any hope Hezekiah might have left.
Okay, let's unpack that. What's in the letter?
It's a direct warning. Don't let the God you depend on deceive you when he says Jerusalem won't be handed over to me.
He's directly attacking Hezekiah's faith, based on that earlier prophecy, perhaps.
Could be. And then he boasts. Based on solid fact at that point. Surely you've heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all the countries, destroying them completely.
And then the punchline.
And will you be delivered? It's rhetorical, dripping with contempt.
He backs it up too, doesn't he? With examples.
Oh yeah. He lists the nations his ancestors wiped out: Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, the people of Eden, and Telassar. And he asks basically, where are their gods now? Where are their kings? He names their cities Hamath, Arpad, Sepharvaim, Hena, Eva.
He's building an undeniable case from history. Look at our track record. Your God is just another name on our list. It's relentless.
And what this really shows, I think, is Sennacherib's worldview. He sees all gods as basically the same limited, local, ultimately powerless against Assyrian might, made by human hands.
He totally misses the distinction the text makes about the God of Israel being the living God.
Completely. He can't conceive of it. So Hezekiah gets this letter. Second wave of threats, even more personal written down. How does he react this time?
It's fascinating. Again, he goes to the temple. But the text adds this incredibly powerful detail. He takes the letter itself.
Yeah. What does he do with it?
He spread it out before the Lord.
Wow. He physically lays the enemy's threat out in God's presence.
Exactly. It's like saying, look at this. Read this yourself. This insult is against you. It's an act of complete transparency, handing the whole problem over.
That visual alone is so powerful, like presenting evidence in court.
Right. And then he prays. A formal prayer this time. What are the key parts of that prayer?
It's really remarkable. He starts by addressing God with these huge titles. Lord Almighty, God of Israel, enthroned between the cherubim. He establishes who he's talking to right away.
Acknowledging God's supreme authority.
And his uniqueness. You alone are God over all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. He affirms God's universal sovereignty and role as creator before even mentioning Sennacherib.
Setting the perspective right from the start, then he brings in the letter.
Yes. He says, give ear, Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, Lord, and see. Listen to all the words Sennacherib has sent to insult the living God. He focuses on the insult against God himself.
And he doesn't deny Assyria's power, does he?
No, and that's crucial. He's realistic. He says, it is true, Lord, that the Assyrian kings have laid waste all these peoples in their lands. He acknowledges the facts on the ground.
But then comes the key distinction.
Exactly. He immediately follows with, but they destroyed false gods, idols of wood and stone, fashioned by human hands. He draws the critical line between idols and the living God.
That clarifies everything. Sennacherib's argument is based on conquering non-gods.
Right. And this leads to the climax of his prayer, the ultimate request. Now, Lord our God, deliver us from his hand. Why? So that all kingdoms on earth may know that you alone, Lord, are God.
Wow, so the goal isn't just survival for Judah. It's about God's global reputation, his glory being revealed to everyone.
That reframes the entire conflict. It's not just about Jerusalem anymore. It's about demonstrating God's unique identity on the world stage.
Okay, so that's Hezekiah's prayer, realistic, God-focused concern for God's glory. How does God respond to that?
God answers again through Isaiah. And the second prophecy is longer, more detailed, and aimed squarely against Sennacherib. It's fierce.
What's the tone? What does God say about Sennacherib now?
God uses this incredible imagery, speaking almost from Jerusalem's perspective. He says the city, the virgin daughter of Zion, despises Sennacherib, mocks him. The daughter of Jerusalem tosses her head in contempt as he flees.
Like the city itself is scornful of this defeated bully, even before it happens.
Exactly. It's a picture of defiant confidence rooted in God. Then God directly tackles Sennacherib's boasts from the letter.
The ones about conquering mountains, cutting down cedars.
Yes, ascending the heights, reaching remote forests, digging wells in foreign lands, drying up Egypt's streams. All the things Sennacherib bragged about achieving through his own power.
And God's response.
God basically says, hold on. Haven't you heard? I ordained all that long ago. I planned it in ancient times. I brought it to pass that you should crush those nations.
Whoa. So God is claiming Sennacherib's past victories were actually part of his plan.
That's the stunning claim. Sennacherib was, unknowingly, a tool in God's hand. His arrogance was based on successes God allowed for his own purposes.
That completely undermines Sennacherib's entire worldview.
Utterly. And then God identifies the real problem, the line Sennacherib crossed. Because you rage against me and your insolence has reached my ears. The offense was personal against God.
And the consequence for that.
This is where that really graphic imagery comes in. God says, I will put my hook in your nose and my bit in your mouth, and I will make you return by the way you came.
Hook in the nose, bit in the mouth, like leading a captured animal.
Exactly. It's imagery of total subjugation, absolute control. The opposite of Sennacherib's self-image. God says, I'm personally leading you away, defeated.
That image says it all about who's really in charge. Now, that's a powerful prophecy, but it's still a promise. How does God reassure Hezekiah this is really going to happen?
He gives Hezekiah a sign, something practical, tied to their daily life, farming.
Okay, what's the sign?
God says, basically, for this year, you'll eat the volunteer crops, whatever grows by itself. Next year, you'll eat what springs up from that. But in the third year, things go back to normal. You'll sow, reap, plant vineyards, and eat the fruit.
So 2 years of relying on God's direct provision through unusual harvests, then a return to normalcy.
Yes, it's a tangible promise of survival and restoration. It tells them there's a future beyond this crisis, a future where normal life resumes. It's a sign of God's faithfulness.
And there's a broader promise linked to that, isn't there, about Judah's future?
Yes, God promises that a remnant, the survivors, will again take root below and bear fruit above.
Taking root below and bearing fruit above, what does that signify?
It's not just bare survival. It's about becoming stable, established, deeply rooted again, and then becoming productive, flourishing, bearing fruit. It's a promise of genuine recovery in life.
And how is this going to happen? Sheer luck. Human effort.
The text is explicit. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. It's God's own passionate commitment, his determination that guarantees this restoration, not human strength.
That puts the hope squarely on God's character. Okay, so long-term hope is covered. But what about the immediate problem? Sennacherib's army outside, the threat to the city itself in that letter.
The prophecy gets incredibly specific about Jerusalem's defense. It directly counters Sennacherib's plans. God declares about the Assyrian king, he will not enter this city.
Okay, flat denial.
Or shoot an arrow here.
Yeah.
He will not come before it with shield or build a siege ramp against it.
Wow, those are specific siege tactics. God saying none of them will even be attempted.
Exactly. It's precise protection. He won't even get close enough to start a proper siege. And God repeats the earlier point, echoing that hook-in-the-nose image. By the way that he came, he will return. He will not enter this city, period.
Total defense guaranteed. And does God say why he's doing this? What's his motivation?
Yes, he gives 2 reasons, clear as day. For my own sake and for the sake of my servant David.
For his own sake, his reputation, and for David's sake, his covenant promises.
Precisely. It's about God's own honor, his name being vindicated after Sennacherib's insults. And it's about his faithfulness to the promises he made to David, about his dynasty and about Jerusalem.
Okay, so we've gone from threat to despair to prayer to these incredibly detailed prophecies about Sennacherib, Jerusalem, the future remnant. How does the source say it all played out? What actually happened?
The resolution is stunningly abrupt and undeniably supernatural. The text just states it almost matter-of-factly. Then the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp.
185,000 overnight.
That's the number given in the text. A catastrophic loss for the Assyrian army.
What was the scene like the next morning?
The text says when the people got up the next morning, there were all the dead bodies. Just devastation.
Unbelievable. The superpower army just gone. Not defeated in battle by Judah, but wiped out by a single divine act.
And the immediate result, exactly as prophesied for the city. Sennacherib breaks camp, withdraws, goes all the way back to Nineveh, the Assyrian capital, and stays there.
He never entered Jerusalem, never shot an arrow, never built a siege ramp.
Just like God said.
Oh.
The prophecy about the city's defense was fulfilled to the letter.
And what about that other part of the prophecy about Sennacherib being cut down back in his own land? Does the source follow through on that?
It does. It records his end. Sometime later, back in Nineveh, while he's worshiping in the temple of his god, Nisroch,
Yes.
his own sons, Adramelech and Sharezer, assassinate him, cut him down with a sword.
Killed by his own sons in his god's temple. After boasting about destroying other gods, the irony is thick.
It really is. It completes the picture. God's word about his fate, spoken through Isaiah in Jerusalem, comes true precisely. His sons escape, the text notes, and another son, Esarhaddon, takes the throne.
So pulling it all together, this deep dive into Isaiah 37 shows this incredible arc from overwhelming threat and total human despair
Right. Through that powerful, God-focused prayer.
to these astonishingly specific divine promises.
And culminating in sudden, massive, miraculous intervention, saving the city, fulfilling the prophecies about the king's fate.
The key insights that really jump out are, well, the stark contrast between human arrogance, even backed by immense power, and God's ultimate sovereignty.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the power of prayer that's focused on God's glory, not just survival. Also, how God works in surprising ways, his absolute control.
And the sheer reliability of his word. He said it, and it happened exactly like that, all driven, as the text says, by the zeal of the Lord Almighty.
Yeah, it's a powerful account of trust versus earthly power. It leaves you thinking.
It really does. Maybe a final thought for you listening. What does this story suggest about where real security is found, especially when you face things that just feel unstoppable?
And maybe also, how does the sheer scale of what God did here, wiping out that army, predicting Sennacherib's end, how does that challenge our own ideas about what's possible or impossible when God is involved?
A lot to chew on there. The details in Isaiah 37 really paint a picture and challenge how we think about power, prayer, and God's direct action in the world.